Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Pure Perspectives. I'm very excited for this one. This is the first of a series. I think we're gonna aim to do this monthly. I am pleased to be joined by Cristina Linezo, who's a realtor here in our neighborhood in the East Bay of California. So this content is going to be more locally focused than some of our other stuff in the states that we cover. Cristina, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for carving out time and doing this. I look forward to kicking these things off. Um, so how Christina and I met, we're on a networking group, La Miranda Success networking group that we started probably a couple months ago.
Mhm.
And we were just discussing like, hey, there really isn't anything video wise out there that is giving a local kind of Contra Costa East Bay update. Maybe we could carve out some time to do something once a month to give the local audience some more feel of what the market is doing, because even on our side, when we look at mortgages, like SoCal compared to NorCal, there's definitely different trends happening in appraisals, in a lot of stuff. So it isn't just that's the California market. It's really what is the hyper local market. So I guess we'll start with Christina. How did 2025 end for you? Was it busier than normal? Slow? What was it like?
Yeah, it's interesting. Usually during the holidays, things do slow down a little bit, but,
Yeah.
things were busy. I was in, showing houses, people were still looking, people were still there weren't as many homes on the market, so inventory was definitely lower, but
Yep.
there were people out looking and homes were selling. I just closed on 2 this week.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank
We saw the
you.
same thing. It was the busiest holiday season we've seen,
Mhm.
both on the refi side and on the pre-approval, getting ready to buy side. So it was unique. I think the press played into that, the talks of more rate cuts coming. And now, obviously, with the big news that came out today with Trump instructing his team to go out and buy 200 billion in bonds to hopefully impact housing prices and hopefully impact interest rates as well. So we're hoping that goes through, because that could take us back to the very, very busy days. So
Yeah.
you mentioned inventory. Like, now that I
Mhm.
mean, I know it's early, we're only at the ninth. Are you seeing more inventory pop up now that we're through the holidays? You seeing more people listing homes?
I feel like my inspectors and stagers are getting busier, so I don't think the
Okay.
homes have necessarily hit the market yet, but I feel like they're coming.
It's all teed up,
People
ready to go.
absolutely, and I feel like there's a lot of buyers that are coming out of the holiday lull and starting to, talk about things more, ask what expectations are for the upcoming year, and just also starting to prepare themselves because I feel like
Yeah.
buyers nowadays really need to be prepared and ready to jump when it's time.
Yeah, so the deals that you did in the tail end of 2025,
Mhm.
were you seeing multiple offers on those homes?
I did. One of them 2 were buyer transactions and 1 was a listing. So on the
Okay.
listing side, though, there was multiple offers.
There is. So it's
Mhm.
still pretty competitive here.
It
We're
can be. It's
seeing,
situation dependent.
yeah, like it's almost like pockets of homes are reacting differently to the market.
Yep.
We're also seeing appraisal issues. We're seeing a big softening in appraised values, to the point where we're having to escalate to lenders to say, "Hey, this can't be right." I mean, I had one that was a $2 million home 8 months ago. The appraisal came back at 165. Like,
What?
that's not a correction. That's a plummet. We ended up getting it
Wow.
sorted out. It came in at 185, which is still a big dip. But are
That's
you seeing
huge.
that as well?
So I haven't run into that issue yet. I hope to not.
Yeah.
But I always am careful to make sure my buyers understand that lenders are only able to lend on the appraised value of a home. So it's important when we're writing offers to make sure that we're being realistic in the number that
Yeah.
we're offering. And so we
Yeah.
also take a look at the comparables and kind of figure out if the price that sellers have set is realistic or not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we actually found the extra cash was, like, we had to manually go out and say, "Find comps," because the 165 was just a crazy dip in a very short amount of time, and quite
Yeah,
honestly, put
that
the whole deal at
is.
risk, like,
Right.
immediately.
Well, and I think that appraisers are going to have to go outside of the normal parameters and
Yeah,
look for comps that are maybe outside of the typical neighborhoods that they would have done, when inventory is higher. Because
yeah,
there have been less homes, I feel like there's just not as many sales to get the comps needed to justify the appraisals.
yeah, and then yeah, that makes sense, and then on the we spend a lot of time talking to people that are hopefully early in the process, the value of a true underwritten pre-approval. Are you kind of still beating that drum? Is it still an absolute requirement for the East Bay market?
Absolutely. I always encourage my buyers to do that if they haven't gotten to that point, like they've just and that's what I mean about it's really important these days to be prepared.
Yeah,
If you're even considering making a move, I say go ahead and get the pre-approval work done so that you can be fully underwritten and go in confidently. Otherwise, you're at risk of not being able to make it work, and that's not good for anyone. It makes the
it's not good
buyers
for
feel bad,
anybody,
it
and
makes the seller frustrated.
yeah,
Um,
and in an environment where there's going to be multiple offers, you want your offer to be ironclad, is what we
Absolutely.
tell people.
And even
W
if it's not, even if you're just making an offer, like, you don't wanna go back and have to cancel after you've
No,
invested your time, your heart, your, resources into
the
making it
realtor's time, the
happen.
lender's time, like, there's a lot of people involved in the transaction, so good to
Yeah.
hear we're both beating that drum because we're not just here in Texas as well, our Texas
Mhm.
office, it's that area is still very busy. It's like, "Hey, it's a competitive market out there, you have to come in ironclad with realistic numbers."
Right.
Like, everybody, thinks, "I'm gonna get that house for 10% cheaper," or like, "No, let's be realistic about what the market is, and let's get you pre-approved in that scenario, and let's hope you have a little bit of buffer that we can play with too, should it get ultra competitive."
Right, and I always tell people it's not as much about what you're pre-approved to, because you could be pre-approved for $4,000,000.
Yeah.
It's important to understand your monthly payment and what feels comfortable for you and your family. No one wants to be house poor.
No, no, and yeah, exactly, and as much as I don't like a lot of the numbers on Zillow, it does show that, hey, we're seeing a bit of a softening in values. And so it just supports what we're saying because, like, yeah, I get it. You want to do this. I understand you believe that's the value, but there are ebbs and flows to a market. And you
Mhm.
do not want to be caught on the high side and then experience, a 10% reduction in the first 6 months you're in the house. So let's be very educated about what we're trying to do here, understand that buying a house is the number one priority here, but let's
Mhm.
get you into the right situation so you're not 6 months in going, "Oh my lord, what do we do? We're underwater already."
Right.
So yeah, it's good we're both beating that drum to get everything dialed in, everything prepared, so that when we give the letter and that letter comes to you and you're out making offers, it's ironclad and we're not going to have a problem. And by the way, we're probably going to move through to closing in, I think our average when we're pre-approved is like 16 days. Like, it just changes the entire dynamic of the purchasing process because a lot of the work's been
Exactly.
done.
Exactly, and I think it helps buyers and sellers feel more confident.
Yeah, yeah, it does because they're looking at real numbers. I mean, you're talking
Mhm.
about how home prices out here, especially for people that are coming out from the city, they've rented,
Mhm.
and there is sticker shock, like, "Oh my lord, I need to spend 1.8 to get into a house." Like, "Hey, yeah, that sounds like a lot, but let's break down the numbers. Let's analyze your income. If you've been living in the city, you've had to make decent money to be able to afford that, so we should be able to figure it out." So, um,
Exactly.
I mean, at the tail end of 2025, we experienced some buyers kind of taking a step back. Um, did you see the same? And was the hesitation a, "Hey, we believe there's going to be a market crash," or was it interest rate related?
It was not as much market as interest rates
Okay.
because there has been so much talk about interest rates potentially going down, people were like, "Well, holidays are coming. We're gonna be busy anyways. There's not a lot of inventory on the market. Why don't we just wait?" I think
Yeah.
for some of my buyers, though, like with these 2, if the right home comes up, they're ready to move.
Yes.
So it wasn't everyone, but I think people stopped being as it wasn't so much a sense of urgency.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And then what else would is any trends from the last year that you wish buyers would understand better and want to be more prepared when they came to you? I understanding the financial piece of it, but is there any other piece, inspection issues, anything else that you interacted like there was a trend last year that like, oh boy, I hope this goes away? Or was it just is it generally every deal is kind of falls into the same bucket?
I feel like every deal is different.
Yeah.
So it always depends, it's really nice what it was mostly customary in our market for sellers to provide inspections.
Yep.
I do value that because I feel like then buyers are able to do the due diligence up front and
Yep.
there's not negotiation once you're in contract. And I think it just helps everybody feel informed and confident. So there were some situations this year where sellers did not do the inspections up front. And I felt like that always makes things a little more nerve wracking.
Sure.
But other than that, everything's really specific to the situation.
Yeah.
I work with buyers and sellers, and so it's always situation dependent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I agree, and I think we're seeing the same. Just to go back to the interest rate discussion,
Mhm.
we're seeing a lot of hesitancy, and again, it's driven by the media, right? Like understanding that a Fed rate cut doesn't automatically mean lower interest rates on mortgage. We spend a lot of time trying to educate buyers on that. Like you're waiting for a Fed rate cut. It works a lot like stock. When Apple says there's a new iPhone coming out, the stock reacts immediately. Lenders are not that different. When they hear that there
Right.
might be a rate cut, they need to be competitive with each other. So they price that rate cut in. So everybody's like, well, I'm going to wait to that cut because I know they're going to just immediately take a drop. And it doesn't work like that. So we're trying to, I think you and I can probably shed some more light in this series as well, is like, hey, understanding that you're waiting for a window that either doesn't exist or is not going to happen. And
Right. I also always like to remind people that you can always refinance later,
yeah,
if rates do drop, but you're not always gonna find the right opportunity, and there was a lot less competition for some properties, so that's another thing. Once interest rates do drop, we're likely gonna see a lot more buyers come out and your
sure.
things are gonna get more competitive. So I always
Yeah.
tell people, if you have the money now, you find a house that you love, go for it. Don't, don't hold back. It's
Date
always a
the
good
rate,
time.
marry the house.
Right.
Yeah. And we're
Exactly.
not, I mean, our prediction for 2026 is we're not going to see this massive decline. We
Right, and
might,
if we do, just refi. Like,
just
that's
refi. It's
yeah.
very easy process. Typically East Bay homes have always been held their value, so they're not going to
Mhm.
be a problem. If you have the house, you have your ducks in a row, go get the house. We'll take care of the financing and refi you down the road if the opportunity presents itself.
Yep.
Well, Christina, this has been awesome. I think this is great for our first one. I
Yeah.
very much look forward to doing these monthly. I always learn something too about what's going on in the market. I can get into my tunnel and just look at Texas and California and at a very broad scope and try and determine what's going on. So it's very helpful to do this. Um,
Yeah.
Great job on your first one. I know you were nervous, but you're now a podcaster.
I'm a
You look
seasoned
like a
podcaster.
podcaster. You sound like a podcaster, and you're only going to improve from here. So, thanks everybody for tuning in. A reminder: give us a like, give us a subscribe. We enjoy your comments, your feedback, and if there's anything in this local market you want us to talk about, leave me a message. I'll make sure it goes on the agenda for next month. Christina, have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you soon in our networking group.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you, Clark.
Bye bye.
Bye.